Greetings from wherever you are joining us from. Thank you very much for keeping it to Rwanda Television, and welcome to our tonight's edition. This is what is coming up. The Executive Director of the Global Fund revealed an extended plan of partnership with the government of Rwanda in the health sector. Investors in Rwanda's tourism sector say that it is productive, as it is a sector based on infrastructure and policies established by the government. With the entire team that is helping me to bring to you live at the Rwanda Television News, greetings to you once again. Welcome to our detailed edition. As we start, the Global Fund Executive Director has revealed an extended plan of a partnership with the government of Rwanda in the health sector. This was said on Friday as the Director, Peter Sands, held discussions with Rwanda's Prime Minister, Dr. Edouard Ngirente. Prince Manzi starts us off tonight with this report.
The government of Rwanda commenced a partnership with the Global Fund in combating against diseases like malaria, tuberculosis, and AIDS on a higher level for the past 20 years. The success of this partnership prompted the Executive Director of the Global Fund, Peter Sands, on Friday to discuss with the Rwanda Prime Minister, Dr. Edouard Ngirente, on enhancing partnership.
Together, huge progress has been made, particularly with HIV. We talked about what needs to be done to sustain that progress and to remove these diseases as threats to the health of the people of Rwanda. But we also talked about some of the work we're doing with the Ministry of Health on strengthening the health system, whether it's through making medical oxygen more available, or through strengthening the ambulance system, or in supporting the development of more skilled health workers, doctors, nurses, midwives, medical technicians, and so on.
In addition, Peter Sands commenced the Rwanda's partnership, hence looking forward for future collaborations. The Rwandan Health Minister, Dr. Sabe Sanzimana, demonstrates that the Global Fund is going to support the government's plan of training health workers.
Also, we had the opportunity to discuss on health financing in general, the landscape, the future, and how we make sure sustainability of investment made in the health system continues. And we learned from other experiences, but more importantly, how do we make sure we invest in people? We train healthcare workers at all categories, the highest levels, so that they keep training others. This is how you keep a long-term legacy of people who are capable, who can even build other infrastructure, equipment, invent, discovery, and so on. So Global Fund commit to support that.
For the past 20 years, the Global Fund provided over $1 billion in combating against AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria in Rwanda. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Prince. Keeping it into the health sector, stakeholders point out that there is need of increasing domestic funds so as to support the sustainable development of the Rwandan health sector. This was reiterated during the National Dialogue on Health Financing. We do have the details with Olive Nete.
Discussions focused on highlighting strategies on how to mobilize resources that are needed for the growth of the health sector. Various panelists reiterated on the need for additional resources to address various health priorities, such as increasing demand for preventive health services, funds to produce and retain needed health workforce, financial barriers to accessing services at the primary care level, and more. Dr. Donald Kaberuka, an expert in economy, points out that lessons learned from the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic should be a catalyst for finding solutions for a resilient health system.
First, COVID powerfully demonstrated, if any was needed, the strong link between health and the economy. In fact, for many countries in Africa, COVID was much more an economic crisis than a health crisis. It demonstrated that health investments have very high economic returns, and so is the opposite. Second lesson from COVID, at least from my perspective, was that robust health systems are the best way to prepare for pandemic, any pandemic. Those who have known or those to come. But then there's a question. How does Africa, with a limited fiscal room, do so without chronic dependence on external partners?
According to Janine Munyeshuri, Minister of State in charge of public investment and resource mobilization at the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, there is a plan to increase revenues that are needed to sustainably support the growth of the sector.
We are in a context where our development is still funded, as you all know, by external finance. And one of our objectives for the coming couple of years will be to increase our revenue of 1% increase, whether it's by collecting more taxes or so tax reforms, or by administrative measures where we know that, okay, we still have pockets of uncollected taxes that we need to collect. Precisely even in the tax reforms, some of these specific tax reforms will be tied to a direct investment into health sector. Let's say taxes on cigarettes, taxes on alcohol, and so on and so forth. It's still under study, but definitely we will do as we implement those tax reforms, directly allocate the new revenues generated to health as a sector.
Peter Sands, the executive director of the Global Fund, emphasizes that it is important to invest in the health sector as governments cannot ensure sustainable growth without a healthy population.
And so the imperative of domestic resource mobilization for health is right here and now. And the good thing is that I think that Rwanda has already been a fantastic example of showing what can be done even in a country where per capita income is just under $1,000 per person. I think the President Kagame, has shown extraordinary determination and political will both here in Rwanda, but also more broadly across the African continent. One is it's absolutely critical to talk about health as an investment and not as a cost. The reality is you can't build economic and social development on sick people. They're too busy just surviving. And you need people to be healthy to build economies and to build a broader society.
The Minister of Health, Dr. Sabin Sanzimana, notes that there is need to wisely allocate available resources.
So there are many elements that we need to look at. First, what's the best way to raise domestic financing or to spend external, even mobilize external financing? It doesn't come just because you're there. You have to mobilize for that. So I think, to me, it should be investing quickly what you have, being domestic or external, to the fact that you addressed the current pressing issue so that it doesn't stay, and you address other issues because they keep coming. And the faster and the more efficient way you do that, the better, because you'll have made people healthier and productive.
The Ministry of Health reports that domestic expenditure as a percentage of total health expenditure increased from 32% in 2010-2011 to 58% in 2019-2020, with public and private sources accounting for 33.5% and 24.1%. Olive Nete, RTV News.
Stakeholders in the sports and entertainment sectors find that the governments need to establish strategies dedicated to facilitating investors, since it was marked as the key player of development of the tourism sector based on meetings, incentives, conferences, as well as exhibitions. We'd have the details with Adam Squizera.
Starting with you, JD.
So I think
the panel discussions that happened on the last day of the World Travel and Tourism Council Global Summit highlighted the role of tourism sector based on meetings, incentives, conferences and exhibition in the economic growth of the African continent. The Chief Executive Officer of NBA Africa, Victor Williams, gave an example of the country of Rwanda on how it took action in developing tourism activities based on MICE, which marks it to be the hub of this sector in the region. Victor Williams pointed out that what this continent needs most is the participation of the government in establishing strategies that are dedicated to facilitate this sector in developing.
the first thing is really just a recognition of the power of this industry in helping to contribute to economic growth and development across the continent. Africa needs to fight with, all its assets. And we're blessed with lots of beautiful destinations, charming cities, and we need more governments that actually build an ecosystem that is led by the public sector that focuses on this as a strategy. That's what we've seen in the countries that are successful.
The Ministry of Sports revealed that in the last 3 years, Rwanda has hosted more than 50 international games, including the Basketball Africa League, BAL, where all those activities has generated $80 million to the country's economy. The Minister of Sports, Munyagajo Oro Mimosa, finds that this sector of tourism based on sports has played a significant role in increasing the level of domestic investment, especially those based on games and entertainment.
Proud to say that Rwanda has become a major destination for sporting events. For the last years, as Victor was saying about it, as sports used to be considered as a channel for citizen mobilization. But today, not only in Rwanda, but also the whole Africa and also the whole world, it's now considered as a contributor to the economy, to the overall economy. So hosting events, particularly in Rwanda, has had a significant impact on our tourism system, our tourism industry, with more and more visitors coming to Rwanda from abroad just for the competition.
And we need more governments.
The CEO of NBA Africa finds that the tourism sector based on sports should go hand in hand with the development of infrastructure, since it is marked as the major factor that attracts the private sector to invest in this sector, as has been seen in some of the African countries, including Rwanda.
And so we take pride in having been the first destination.
Closing this 3-day summit, the Chief Executive Officer of Rwanda Development Board, RDB, Francis Gatay, emphasized that this summit was a good platform to discuss on various issues affecting the development of the tourism sector, particularly on the African continent, where many of those challenges are sought for sustainable solutions. It was the first time that this World Travel and Tourism Global Summit was held on the African continent. This WTTC announced that Australia will be the next host nation by 2024. Adams Kwizera, RTV News.
The Chair of Tourism Western Australia.
Thank you, Adam Kwizera, for the report. And still on the sidelines of the just concluded World Travel and Tourism Council WTTC Summit, participants have pointed out the need for increased collaboration to develop the sector, particularly on the African continent. In an exclusive interview with my colleague Olive Ntete, Honorable Simai Mohammed, the Minister of Tourism and Heritage of Zanzibar, highlighted strategies that can be adapted to build a resilient tourism sector in Africa.
What collaborations are needed between stakeholders in this industry, governments and organizations to ensure the growth of the tourism sector on the continent, but also globally?
I think obviously you have the Rwanda Tourism Board that is promoting Rwanda. For every country, whichever way you are promoting the brand of that country, it must be aligned with the African continent on a wider picture. Because Africa has been negatively portrayed in terms of media for many years. So a lot of Europeans, a lot of Americans, a lot of people from Far East, when you ask them about Africa, they think the negative side rather than the beauty and the positive side. They will see the continent on National Geographic, but when they watch on the news, there's always the negative side of the continent. So us as Africans, when we are promoting our relative countries, we must make sure that we are talking about Africa. And it is important for the Africans themselves to be tourism ambassadors of the continent. When you go out, when you move, when you walk, all Africans should embrace the culture of promoting the continent wherever they walk. So if you're in Europe, promote Africa, promote Rwanda, promote Tanzania, promote Kenya, talk about all these countries, the beauty. So we should have the knowledge. You may ask someone, what is the common understanding of the culture, the food of Nigeria? Someone may not know. If the Nigerians love chili, Yes, when they eat like chili. When you go to Zanzibar, what's their favorite food? They want pilau, they want biryani. And if you go to South Africa, what do they like to eat? So we should know among ourselves what are the relative important social, political, economic issues of every country. The future is definitely bright. The governments, we need to work together. We need to promote intra-travel for an African to travel within the African continent. There is no problem for a Rwandese to come to Zanzibar, then feeling that if you go to Dubai, it's a better destination. So more Africans need to travel within the African continent to learn more about each other's culture, traditions, but the beauty of our continent. So we need to appreciate. You will find us as East Africans, many of us have not been to West Africa, but we have traveled to Europe, we have traveled further to Far East, Southeast Asia, and many places. So we need to encourage more Africans to travel in our continent, but also to ensure that for governments in the continent to lower the prices, to find a way that the prices are affordable for our people.
The COVID-19 pandemic has hindered so many sectors, including the tourism sector. What can African countries, but also the world, do to ensure recovery and also resilience of the sector?
One of the biggest things that we've learned from COVID is you cannot rely on tourism. Tourism is such a volatile industry because with a small little hiccup, everything comes to stop. So every country in Africa should ensure that by using tourism as an industry, it activates, it acts as a catalyst to ensure that the other industries from textiles, from the food, transport, agriculture, construction, they are all benefiting and they are moving different parts. But also to come with solutions, not to rely heavily on tourism, making sure that it's an important area, it's an important industry, but ensure that our people are prepared and they are creative, innovative to ensure that they are moving, but benefiting out of it. Of course, with COVID, anything that would come in the nature of what had happened, there is no way you'll have anything else to do. The most important part, to ensure that our people have savings, save your money. When the tough time comes, it will be able to support you and guide you and your family.
Thank you, Olive Nete, for the informative interview. And moving ahead, investors in Rwanda's tourism sector say that it is productive as the sector is based on infrastructures and policies established by the government. Prince Manzi with more.
Jules Mugabe has been for the past 10 years a guide for tourists across Rwanda. Him and Selino Muhoza, the CEO of the Kigali Atlantis Tourists, talk on how it is a productive sector and still needs to be invested in. People selling the spare parts gain money, drivers, and others. It really contributes to the country's economic development.
Of course, we do witness the growing number of investors, but the issue we have is that sometimes there is scarcity of safari vehicles.
There are also investors in the schools of tourism and hospitality, as it is a growing sector requiring professionalism, as explained by Alphonse Habimana of the Kigali Excellent Tourism and Hospitality Academy. All the summits that take place in Rwanda, our students assist the guests, and there is really a great partnership with the government and the private sector in providing experience to our students, who later become key players in this sector. The chairman of the Rwanda Hospitality Association, Sengyumva Barakabuye, commends the government's support that was the basis of their investment in this sector.
I think the government has made a lot in terms of making it possible from this policy of doing businesses in Rwanda, but also looking at the marketing part of the country, where there are these partnerships between Visit Rwanda and key football teams. Also looking at the free visa policy. Now look at the construction of Bugesera Airport. Most importantly, also when we look at the security side, which is a key for tourism.
Whilst in the parliament recently, the governor of the Rwanda Central Bank, John Rwangombwa, told the Senate chamber that touristic services are paid in Rwandan francs rather than foreign currencies. These foreign currencies are from hotels, international hotels in Rwanda. You find them paying Rwandan francs rather than foreign currencies for other services. Tourists in Rwanda often visit parks, museums, memorials and cultural sites, among others. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
The Development Bank of Rwanda, BRD, has signed a financing agreement of 20 million euros with the French Agency for Development, AFD, to support a green investment in the country. We have the report.
The fund will be channeled through Rwanda's Green Investment Facility, Ireme Invest, that aims to drive private sector ventures in climate-resilient projects. The facility was launched during the 27th UN Climate Conference, COP27, that took place in November 2022 in Egypt. BRD CEO Kameta Sainzoga urged those with relevant projects to approach the bank for funding. We can tell Rwandans that funds are available. Most of the times, people say there is inadequate funding or point out the issue of high interest rates. With the partnership of the French government, we are welcoming projects to utilize the funds effectively. Eligible projects in various sectors including energy, transport, environmental protection-related agriculture projects, waste management and others will be given loans at an interest rate of 12% for a period of 2 years. The French ambassador to Rwanda, Antoine Anfray, says that the low-interest loan provided by the French Development Agency is an indication of the good cooperation between the two countries. This will help in funding environmental protection projects that Rwanda has embarked on. This is important because your country faces disasters that result from the effects of climate change. The recent example is the May 2023 floods and landslides in Rubavu and other areas. Avec ces inondations catastrophiques qui ont eu lieu de mémoire au mois de mai là du côté de Rubavu. A 1 million euros agreement was also signed, which will be used in the monitoring of environmental protection and climate change projects and providing technical support. BRD says that there are projects in need of funding, including those in renewable energy, green buildings, importing environmentally friendly vehicles, and more.
And that's all from us tonight. Many thanks for joining us. From everyone here at RBA and specifically RwandaTV News, many thanks for being with us. It has and will always stay our pleasure having your company. And up until next time, have a great, enjoyable and fruitful weekend. Goodbye.